Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, my guest, which I recorded on Clubhouse, but we had some rendering issues, is Tome, and this is the cover of his book. And he is a Nigerian, lives in Nigeria for 26 years, could see, was driving, as a taxi man, like an Uber service, and he was actually robbed, shot in the face, and now blind. And so I got most of the interview, but the beginning parts, I wanted to come on here and give you guys some context because for 26 years, this man could see. They tried to rob him. He did not fight back, but they shot him and pretty much left him for dead. It's a great story. We get right into after he gets shot and then he continues. So stay tuned. This is his book that you can get right now. If you want to have another type of format or copy, make sure to reach out to him. You can also reach out to me. I really think this is an inspiring story, especially for those of us who feel like maybe life has got us down. This man was shot in the face and blind, missing teeth. You can check out his YouTube too after you check out this interview and see he was shot for nothing, for a cell phone. And they didn't even get the phone. Let's hear Tommy talk about this. I thank you guys for tuning in to Diversified Game and all that you do and sharing this type of content to build you up and make you a better person and encourage you, showing you how people started, sustained, and succeeded, and in this case, overcame. You guys be blessed.
What if this guy, pulls the trigger, but eventually he did. And yeah, I am right now. Right. I survived that. I'm a blind person, just like right now.
Okay, and did this happen in Nigeria? If so, in which state?
Oh, yes, it did happen in Nigeria. I decided to Lagos, Nigeria. So it happened here in Lagos, Nigeria, somewhere on the island. It's a funny bridge. So there was this traffic. The name of the bridge is Akobo Bridge, so it's more like an African thing. So yeah, it happened so fast, but it actually happened in Lagos, Nigeria. Yes, that's where it happened.
Okay, and this is a business, and I like to say African podcast, and we like to encourage everybody to podcast because many people don't know the beauty of a place like even a Victoria Island, right? So people from New York go to Victoria Island and say, "Why is this place so expensive?" But it do you think it was a random shooting or was it a planned attack?
No, it was more like okay, I never knew. People always said that there were a couple of robbery happening on that bridge and almost every day, but I didn't know about it. It was my first time taking that bridge at night. I usually pass through the bridge during the morning hours. So I never knew. So if I had known, I would have passed through the popular second longest bridge in Africa, which is the third mainland bridge. I would have passed through that route. But I was using the Google map. So the Google map took me through that route, which was a faster route, So it's actually on the island, and so I never knew that stuff like that happened there. So they just came there. They're like two of them. They're so young, no more than 20 years. I can remember his face like it's the last person I saw before I became blind. So they're like two of them. They're just. I actually thought they were people coming back from work. So they passed my car, and I thought they're just these young fellas, coming back from their workplace, and they came back to my car. The other one wasn't with a gun. My rider was an Uber driver, so my rider was behind me, behind my driver's seat, and the other one was attempting to rob my rider, asking her for her belongings. And the one that had a gun came to the front of that's beside my window, and that's how the whole thing happened.
Okay, and just so people know who may be familiar with Lagos, this bridge, is this bridge, connecting, going to Lakey, or where's this bridge, taking people? Because some people say, hey, if you live in, certain parts of Nigeria, you're safe, but if you leave, you're in trouble.
Oh yes, I mean it's a bridge people take like almost every day. It's a bridge that links the island to the mainland. Now the thing is that many people don't have a choice. They still take that bridge still today, even though they know that it's not safe. So I mean it's another thing. I don't want to talk about politics, but we know how the Nigerian society is crying about, the security of, the average Nigerian. Peter Obi is, really trending even in Houston, Texas, and everywhere in the world. So it's a thing of people risking their life. People need to go to work. You need to eat. You need to put food on the table. So we find ourselves in a position where we live in constant fear all the time. But I'll say it's by God's grace, people are surviving, even taking routes like that. But, one of the secured places in Lagos, Nigeria is, the island, Victoria Island, Lekki. But there's some places, I must say, on the mainland that obviously are not secured. So even when I talk to my friends in the UK, in the US, coming to Nigeria, they ask me, oh, Tommy, where's the safest place? I always tell them it's the island. But this actually happened on the island, so we are talking about nowhere is safe. So that's what we keep talking about here, in Nigeria right now.
Okay, and I want you, to always keep talking, because even when you talk, it gives education to people, and I say that not just for like the Western audience, and but even when you were talking about Google Maps, I've been in places in Africa, and I have Africans who say that works here. Like they didn't know, and I said, yeah. I said, download it. It's free. Like everything, Google is big. So we have to keep talking, because sometimes people even there don't know. So if you think that people, in Africa don't know, Americans and Europeans sometimes really will say, be shocked. And there's some people might be listening, are those minority who might be even watching the audio on this, and they say, wow, the English is so good. Let me tell you something, people. In Nigeria, the English is more than good. It's the British English, so it's very clear. But the Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, and even let's talk about the Hausa sign language, is something you've never even heard of. But can we talk about, once you become blind, now, what have you done to like have your senses heightened? Because a lot of times we hear that when people lose one sense, other senses heighten.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, that's true. But before I get into that, I just want to say, concerning what you said about Google is very true. There are a couple of people that don't even know that something like Google exists, and takes you through a route where you don't have to experience the long Lagos traffic. So many people don't know, and the truth is that many people don't know how to use it. And sometimes I surprise people, tell them I even use Google as a blind person. Sometimes I'm even directing the driver, as a blind person. And, thanks to technology, many people don't know the advantage of these things. And that's why I like that we're also creating that awareness as well. Now, talking about, the being blind and, other sense organs and, being heightened, I would say that, it's more like there's this power of focus when it comes to the eyes. Now, for a blind person, you channel that to your hearing. So now, the usual thing of, NEPA takes the lights, NEPA interrupts power supply. There was something happened in my house when I was staying in my former house. There's this air condition outside that makes a noise that only a blind person can notice. So now, NEPA interrupted power supply. The NEPA is the power holding company here in Nigeria. So it's called PHCN now. Now, they interrupted power supply, and I just said, okay, no, sorry, not interrupted, they restored power supply. Now, I heard that noise from the air conditioner, and Nobody else heard it. I was in the room with like three sighted people, the totally sighted, and I only heard it. And I said, "Up Nepal," it's the usual thing we say here in Nigeria when power is restored. And I was like, "Up Nepal," and they're like, "Tommy, how did you hear that?" No, sorry. They're like, "Tommy, how did you know that? How did you know that they brought they restored power supply?" And I was like, "I heard the air condition outside," and they're like, "How did you hear it?" I'm like, "Well, I guess I can focus on all the sounds around me. The things I've channeled, to my sight and now with my hearing. So I'm very sensitive to the changes of sounds around me, and that's how, I would say that a lot of stuffs are heightened the way I feel. I navigate around my house, and I make sure I don't bump into walls just by echolocation. So I notice that when I'm speaking or when I'm making a noise with my mouth and I'm moving around my house, if I speak and sound bounces back to me, sound changes. So that's how I know that I'm close to a wall. So I move around the house by myself. I wear my clothes myself. I have my bath myself, and a lot of things myself. My wife, who was my girlfriend before I became blind, was so surprised about how I was able to start using my phone. I started, using my Instagram myself. A couple of almost all the message I sent to you was um, myself. I did it myself. People are so surprised about this. Many Africans don't know that blind people can use their phones, and I was even shocked. Even in the Western world, many people don't know that blind people use their phones. On my YouTube channel, a couple of Americans send me messages. Are you the one typing this message? And I'm like, my brother, just search on YouTube how blind people use smartphones. So you get that answer. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Because blind isn't what it used to be, as far as how technology, people do get transplants. Now that we're having cars that can drive themselves, how excited are you for cars that can drive themselves, and even the technology of, and do you even qualify even for a transplant, and how does that process work? Just technology is the question, because so much has happened where there have been blind people who can see again.
Oh yes, yes. Well, talking about the health sector, it's really kind of shady here in Nigeria, as you know in the news. For many of us who are following the Nigerian news, so I mean, a couple of suggestions were made for me to travel abroad to India and everything in between. But I was privileged to go to one of the best hospitals here, somewhere in Isaac John Street at GRA Ikeja. The name of the hospital is Eye Foundation, and these people recommend people actually to go do operations abroad. But for my own case, my optic nerves were damaged. But just like what you said, the doctors told me that if science can like invent something to regenerate an optic nerve, then they can talk about a retina transplant, and everything in between. But as long as the optic nerves is damaged, there's nothing that can be done for now. They are talking about stem cells as well. I've not heard any positive news about stem cell. It's still a thing of trial, So we are hoping technology does more for blind people, like what you said about, driving cars, cars that drive by themselves. I think it's a good news for blind people, but the question now is how many blind person can afford a Tesla? That's a big question. The average Nigerian don't even get social welfare or social packages from the Nigerian government. That's why many of us are running, abroad. I would hide this. I'm actually planning to run to Canada. We call it Japan. So everybody wants a better, environment that, work for them, but there's also one part of me that says, Toby, stay in Nigeria. If you stay in Africa, if you leave Africa, it's going to fix Africa. I've always been a big believer of, Nigeria can still work, and I believe it can. But now I've come to a point where I'm telling myself, well, I'm going to leave until Africa gets itself right. So yeah, that's just it.
Well, and the other part of looking at that is, people people who do want to stay in Africa, and we invest. We have a place where I never have to leave in certain parts of Africa because we've invested, and and that's fine. But the other part is, are they saying stay in Nigeria, stay in Africa because you are blind and you can do more good? But if you had sight, nobody cares, right? Oh, travel the world, fall bush, wherever you want to go. So why can't a blind person travel the same way we see all the Instagrammers who only do luxury? You can travel the world and be, you do public speaking. So you can go do that and inspire the whole world, including Africa, and possibly, when stem cells or whatever technology does, it's going to come first, probably to the other side of the world and not Africa. We get everything last. So I say that, I mean, that's a personal decision, but nobody should fault you however way you want to go, because people are traveling. I'm traveling. I'm an American born, but I'm also an African citizen as well, of Sierra Leone, and I get to pick out as many passports and residencies as I like.
Wow.
You, you, you,
And that's amazing. Wow. Wow.
yeah. So we, because on the other side, people will tell Black Americans here, they'll say, "Oh, if you leave and run to Africa, nobody's running. We're traveling. People have been doing it, the beginning of time. Jesus traveled. You know what I mean? Why should we?
Yeah.
Why should we be still? So it's good to hear that you are open to that, because many people would be depressed. How did you get over any bouts of depression or fear? You said you had your wife who was your girlfriend at the time. She has a book in herself about her experience. But just give us some coping skills, because there's somebody going through a diagnosis right now and they don't know how to cope with it, and they don't know if they should go to therapy, if they should tell everybody. Like, what did you do?
Oh yes. Thank you so much, Kellen. Before I go into that, I must say that I'm proud of you and many, African Americans who are, coming to enjoy the culture of Africa, and I think it's just profound. I would actually encourage more Africans. Even if you want to come back to Africa, why not? We have stories of, a lot of Africans coming back to Uganda. Some are, tracing their, roots. I watch, documentaries all the time on YouTube, how people come back to Ghana and everything in between. So I'm really proud of you and, coming back to Sierra Leone and, becoming a citizen. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's not easy, I must say. It's hard, Imagine the doctors telling you, Tommy, I'm afraid you will not be able to see again. To cut the long story short, and this was, I want people to, like, put yourself in my shoes. If it was you, being sighted for 27 years of your life, and the doctor all of a sudden tells you that, oh, the pellets damage your eyes. Luckily for me, it didn't touch my brain. Then some of the pellets were close to my spine. Sorry, trigger warnings for everyone, for violence. So it's damaged. I still got pellets on my nose as I speak to you. There's some pellets lodged in my bone. The doctor says it's not going to do any harm. It's like iron, so it's not going to, cause any infection or what have you. So I live with this, and I ask myself that how did I get here? But when it happened, I'll try and make it short. When it happened, it was a question of how do I live my life now as a blind person? How do I do all the things, become a businessman? I always wanted to have my own Apple store where I fix gadgets, where I sell gadgets, and stuff. I've always loved to be a part of the Igbo tribe. I love their business spirit. I mean, I'm from the Yoruba tribe, but I love doing business and everything in between. So I wanted to set up my own business. That's why I went into driving before the tragic event happened. So I questioned myself, oh, Tommy, right now you're a failure. You can't do anything with your life no more. It was 7 to 14 days of, crying. I broke down. I was depressed. At some point, I even asked the doctor to inject me and let me just die. I remember drawing the doctor to me and I was like, doctor, is there a way you can inject me? They just kill me, I beg, make I die. Sorry, I had to say that in pidgin English because that was how I said it. Please, just make I die.
Talk that pigeon. Talk that serious talk, oh.
Okay, I was like, doctor, I beg, please just inject me, make I die. That was how I said it because it was coming from within, from this pain from within. I was like, and the doctor also responded in pidgin. I was like, Tommy, no talk like that. This was a friendly doctor, very cute young guy. I've never seen him before. Obviously, I was blind, but just by the way he sounded, I felt it was cute. I called him the cute doctor. We had a wonderful relationship. And he told me, Kobam Sasuko is a blind musician, he's doing great things. Stevie Wonder, the amazing Stevie Wonder in America is doing great things. He gave me a couple of examples, but that didn't work then. But to cut the long story short, after like 7 days of sorrow, pain, thinking, and just wallowing in my pain, drowning in my depression, I told myself, I did a little bit of self-evaluation, and I was like, Tommy, you cannot control the finger that pulled the trigger. Look at yourself right now. If you keep on doing this to yourself, you keep hurting yourself more. And that's the thing that is very hard for us to tell ourselves when we are going through challenges. But it takes courage to tell yourself that you don't have power over those things that cause you the pain. Just like when you lose a job, you don't have power over them, or you lose someone, you lose a loved one. You don't have power over those things that happen to you. But one thing you can have power over is how you respond to it. So I did a little bit of self-evaluation, and I told myself, Tommy, you have to accept your challenge, because the more you run away from it, the more it chases after you. So I accepted the fact that, oh yes, I'm blind. Maybe waiting for you happen after you are blind, you have your life. You didn't die. I almost lost my life. I was bleeding out profusely. By the time I got to the hospital, the doctor said I was actually dead because I wasn't even responding, So, and I looked back, I was like, oh, thank God, being a Christian as well, I was like, oh, I'm actually alive for a reason. The fact that I survived being shot in the face, So, and I looked at my life and I was like, oh, Tom, you can be an inspiration to somebody out there, if only if you respond positively. And I remember I always tell people this when I speak, when I go through like virtual events to speak, to encourage people. I always say, many a times we tell ourselves, there's light at the end of the tunnel, But I tell people, I'm like, why wait for the light at the end of the tunnel when you can actually be the light in the tunnel? So that's how I started with this, my movement of, the blind illuminator. I help people see the light in their darkness. That's what I do with my public speaking, creating the awareness of, the light, and just helping people see that there's more to their life than their challenges and everything in between. So that's how I started this movement. Just like what you said, I do wish to travel around the world, inspire people. I'm also a big advocate of making people to be aware of, blind people being employable. We can do great things. You can employ us. That's a big problem even in America. I have a American mom. She's actually a white person, but I call her my American mom. She's blind as well. That's a conversation we have all the time. Many Americans, blind people. I'm also in a couple of Facebook blind community. Americans are there as well. They're complaining the way we are complaining here in Nigeria. People look at you and they question you. Are you sure you can do the job? And you've not even given me a try. And you're looking at me because of my blindness or because I'm on a wheelchair. And you didn't even give me a try, first of all. And this is one thing, just like you said, I wish to advocate for many blind people out there. So I do wish to travel, if you must say that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and many people blind people have gone to school, great schools. You mentioned Stevie Wonder, picking up hobbies even when you get older, whether you have sight or not. And since you said things accelerate, have you tried picking up an instrument, or did you play an instrument before? Just curious, since you mentioned Stevie Wonder.
Oh, well, I'm a big lover of music, but I sing as well. I listen to music, I sing, but I've never picked up an instrument. I've always loved to play the guitar, but that's one thing I'm looking into doing. But the truth is, I'm not. I listen to music for fun. I listen to it to music to just evaluate my life. Sometimes you can't have your spirit high all the time. Sometimes you're down. You listen to music. You pick yourself back up. This was one of the key factors that helped me when I became blind. Listen to music. I listened to songs by Andrea Day, Rise Up by Andrea Day. There was this song
Mm-hmm.
that I would listen to this song, and now rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up,
Yes.
inspired, yeah, I will rise 1,000 times again. And I would listen to those songs even in the hospital. The nurses were surprised, and this actually helped me, to fight depression. Music itself, and that's even a big factor in my story as well. So music is a thing I just listen to pass time. I'm not thinking of doing it officially, but I do sing as well. I love music. So yeah, thank you.
And why not? Why not do music? There's so many people who have everything to the point they don't know what to do next. And sometimes you pick up that guitar, start playing that piano, different parts of your life, you can get different things. But there's even been blind painters and sculptors. So for anybody who maybe you're going through this, or maybe it's something else, pick up a skill, always be learning, because when you're learning, you feel like you still have a purpose. If you got $10 million and you don't know what to do with it, I can tell you how depressed you will be right now without a purpose. And somebody's right now saying, Kellen, give me 10 million. I won't be depressed. I'm going to do this, that, the third. It doesn't always work out like that. But always in times of trial and tribulation, you find out who you really were. I want to know, have you started to write the book?
Oh yes, I already have a book. I've written a book already. It was recorded and I transcribed it. The title of the book is Tragedy to Triumph. I'm setting up my website. I already have it on Amazon, but I'm actually setting up my website because I'm trying to create something independent. So my website is being set up as we speak. Somebody is working on my website, but it's actually on Amazon. I've written it already. I wrote it last year. The title of the book is Tragedy to Triumph, and the subheading is a young man's journey from being blinded in an armed robbery attack to being an icon of hope to millions of people. So it's basically my journey growing up. The book is about my journey growing up, what shaped my values. I was actually I was raised by a single mom since 2004. Mom and dad had, a terrible relationship, which I don't want to go into right now. So it shaped my values, and you asked the question about my wife, which I forgot to answer. She's actually I dedicated an entire chapter for our love story. She was my first girlfriend. I've had several relationships after we dated. It didn't work. We're teenage lovers, and we're not mature then, so we just separated. We're just friends, And after like 10 years to 11 years later, we started dating again. And what happened. I became blind, and she told me, I'm not with you. I remember when she told me, this was part of the story. This is not like giving a spoiler for my book, but I can just share this part of it. There's a lot more you can learn and read from the book. There's a lot of experience that can teach you. So there's this particular part of our story where I was in the hospital and she was there supporting my mom. My mom, very unusual, African mom now, my brother. My mom all of a sudden start to they like this girl. I don't know, I don't know how. So I was so surprised, And 3 months into where I was in the hospital, she all of a sudden she came to meet me and she was like, told me let's get married. And I'm like jokingly, my brother, I was like, are you blind? Can't you see I'm blind? You want to marry me? And I had roughly 40,000 naira, which is about it's not more than $100 as well. I didn't have much because we had already spent much on hospital bills. My family has spent much already, and I didn't have money. I was like, I don't even have money and nothing to start with. And she was like, God is gonna provide. You're gonna start off something. But as God will have with my brother, yes, God did provide. People heard our story, support came, started, doing public speaking events. A couple of people gave me an honorary, and everything in between, and she's been a huge support to me, I must say. I plan to study social work. I'm really passionate about doing it. That's one of the course that that's the course I applied for at University of Manitoba, and it's one of the reasons why I want to jackpot, just like I said. So she's been a huge support to me. I plan to do social work because I want to help people to recover from depression. I want to, how will I put it now? I want to fill that space, that void of, where people are facing depression and are still struggling. I believe I've been through that experience and I can help somebody out there, who might just be struggling as well. So that's one thing I'm really passionate about doing.
Well, I think it's inspirational. And when I first saw your picture, I think it was a quick video. I thought at first, I don't know if you know this Cameroonian artist by the name of Tanar, but he rolls his eyes in the back of his head when he takes off his glasses a lot of times. And that's kind of how he got his name. And a lot of his stuff is in French and local dialects, but he has hundreds of millions of videos. 100 millions of views online. Very popular artist in Cameroon. But that's what at first I'm like, oh, is he taking the Tanar style? And then I saw and I kept watching and I said, wait, he's missing his teeth in the front, some of them. I said, what's going on? And I think that confidence to be able to say, this is me, because many people will say, oh, we want to make sure you keep your glasses on, like Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles and so many others do, right? I too wear sunglasses because my eyes are very sensitive to light. And people, since my childhood, like, what's going on? Are you blind? And I said, I have to be blind to be comfortable. I have to be blind. Now, me, I know how to fight very well. So you might want to just leave me alone because I'm not bothering you. That's where the conversation I would like to end, right, with those people. But how is not, fixing what people call fixing your teeth and wearing the sunglasses constantly, is that part of like the image you're trying to show people? I'm not a 419er. I really went through something. And if you want to hear my story, here it is.
Oh, yes. Okay. If you notice in my previous videos, I stopped wearing my glasses. And I guess the reason why the reason why I actually did that is I wanted people to accept me for who I was, My eyes don't look like every other human being's eyes. Funny enough, the series of operations actually made I lost. It's almost like you're looking at, a blind ninja. When you see those movies where those ninjas have these white eyes, But my due to trauma of the eyeballs, my eyes actually shrunk. My eyeballs shrunk, so my eyes don't even open totally. So I was like, oh, I keep wearing glasses all the time. People think I'm, trying to form fine boy. And my teeth, I'm proud of it. The pellets damaged my teeth as well. That's one thing I really don't talk about. As I speak to you, I got braces on, thanks to a hospital in Ikoyi, on the island as well. They heard my story and they plan to fix an artificial teeth for me, So I'm gonna have my smile back. But I still smile, even though I don't have my two front teeth, I still smile. I still try to show people that my challenges is not going to define me. I won't wait until life is no longer hard before I decide to be happy. This is my story. I've chosen to embrace it. So why not come open to people and let people accept me the way I am? I started revealing myself, and nobody reacted. People were like, I even did a survey on my YouTube post. I did like a a poll, and many people were like, told me, why not? We should accept you for who you are. It's okay, not to wear your glasses. So now I decided not to wear my glasses for my YouTube videos. But going out and not wearing my glasses is one thing I'm not going to do, because I'm a cute guy. I'm a good looking guy. I'm proud of myself. I wear glasses. I told myself, oh, Toby, remember you used to wear glasses to look good. So why can't I, just like you said, why can't I do that, to look good as well, even as a blind person? And that's one way I'm trying to, also speak to my fellow blind people, my fellow persons with disabilities. Look good. You may be blind, but don't look filthy. You may be blind, but don't look not presentable. Look, you may be blind, but look good. And that's one thing I tell people who are still struggling with getting somebody to, a relationship, get somebody to marry. Look good, be presentable, have something doing. People are going to love you. My wife always knew me to be that kind of guy that look good. I love to, feel good about myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why, even till now that I don't have my front teeth, she's like, oh, Tommy, I love your smile and everything in between. My son is always looking at me. I'm sure he's always looking at his dad is cute, so I'm proud of myself, so yeah, that's just who I am.
No, that's great. And if you guys look at the thumbnail and look at the pictures, even on his Instagram, but he has pictures where he's modeling. That suit that you had sent me in that picture.
That picture that you see was actually a deal I had with a glasses company here in Lekki. So it's a big company. They saw my story and they saw that, oh, I look good with sunshades. And they were like, oh, he told me we'll give you so amount. It was a good price, 250,000 naira, which is okay. But I did it because I just wanted to also inspire people as well. So it was more like advertising for them and also inspiring people. That was the deal. So they called me, we did a photo shoot, and that's the picture you saw. It's also me trying to tell people that your challenges should not define your looks. You can also look good as well. So yeah, that I just wanted to mention that.
And can you talk about, you talk about your wife, and you got married after this. Did you still have to pay bride price? I have to ask. Was there any because you said, look, you had about $96, was bride price still a thing, or are you still paying it now?
Oh, well, it wasn't a big deal for my in-law. My wife was also raised by a single mom, so there wasn't any dad for me to deal with.
Okay.
First of all, so that was taken out of the equation. So it was just her mom, which is I call my mom my wife second. She's almost like my wife is just like she's such a wonderful woman. When I told my wife to go ask her, oh, you're about to marry a blind person, guess what her mom said?
What?
Her mom was like, well, there are a couple of guys who are sighted and their heads no correct. So I'm saying that's the preaching. So what that means is that there are a couple of guys out there that are sighted and which English should I use right now? They are not serious. They can't dedicate themselves to a lady. So that's what she meant. And she asked my wife, she was like, are you sure he's serious? Are you sure he's a serious-minded person? Are you sure it's this, blah, blah, blah? And she told my wife, she was like, well, he's blind, but he's alive. And even though he's blind, as long as you love him, why not go for him? I was so surprised, So in the case of bride price, it wasn't a big deal. Like I said, support came through that time, a couple of Nigerians in the UK supported me. The phone I'm using right now is an iPhone 8 Plus. This lady Googled the best phone that a blind person can use. I learned how to use my phone in a matter of 2 weeks. I'm very passionate about technology. I understood the interface of the smartphone. So I think that was what helped me. So people sent support. We didn't really do a big wedding. We just did the court wedding and the usual yam, brought all the traditional stuff, yam and everything. We just did something soft, not too big. But I actually plan to do like a renewal of wedding vows in our 10th year anniversary. And by then, we'll be doing a white wedding, a big wedding by God's grace.
Oh
God's
yes,
really.
yes, in Jesus Christ's name, let that happen. We never did. We still haven't had a big wedding, but the more I see big weddings and I see people who can't even last 2 years, I say, "Chai, this thing has been going for 15 years." Yeah, I said this thing is going stronger, so it's good. I have to ask because you have such a great personality. I don't use that word lightly, but do you think the person who shot you meant to shoot you, or was it something that, do you think maybe it was an accident? Like, you don't know after you're shot, right? And I don't know if they caught those people or not. But like, just give us your thoughts on, what do you think? Did they mean to do it? And how do you work on forgiveness? It's because it's something I couldn't do, so I have to ask you.
Oh, yeah. You see, I really like this question. I like when people ask me this question because it's really personal to me. This was really like the emotional part of my life. Getting to ask, how do I forgive somebody that made me blind? And Kelly, I want you to just put yourself in my shoes. I want to ask you as well. How will you feel before I answer your question?
Oh, you don't want to know. I'll tell you off air because you're such a
you damn them to hell.
and their family and everything else.
So just to answer your question, first it was hatred, first it was anger. I was bitter, and just like what I told you, when this was like after 3 months, and I looked at my life, I knew something was missing. At this point, people find my story inspiring. I was trending on Twitter. Oh, this blind guy who was able to overcome depression after he was shot. My story was everywhere back then. This was 3 years ago, September 12th, 2019. People even till now are so shocked at the way I was able to recover. But Kelly, I wouldn't have recovered if I didn't forgive. And that's just the bitter truth. So the journey of forgiveness is another journey entirely. That's also included in the book. I it was a question of, told me, okay, let me just give you this example, Kelly. If you are holding on to hot coal, so if you know this food called boli, I don't know if you know boli, roasted plantain.
Come on now. Do I know fufu? Do I know Gary? Do I know okra? Okay, listen, yeah, I know.
An average African man is, roasting the boli. You see that hot coal, and when you get close to it, how hot it can be. Now, unforgiveness is like trying to hold on to that coal. Now, you keep holding on to it. It's hurting you, and you choose not to let go. That's how you can describe unforgiveness. It's hurting you. Your hurt is justified. That person caused you pain. Probably, maybe it can be the story of, and I'm never going to push anyone to forgive. This is not me telling you, oh, you must forgive, just in case you are listening to me right now. No, I would never be that person to put you in that unnecessary position. Follow your process. If you want to be that way, because you are justified to feel that way. I can't even imagine somebody, putting a gun to the head of somebody I love, and you take the person's life. I remember when watching Netflix. Oh, many people don't know blind people watch Netflix. I was watching Netflix, and I watched the Jeffrey Dahmer. That's a big history, the American history. I also watched the clown story guy, or who killed like 33 people. That guy. I don't know if you know that story, Kelly.
Yes.
The guy that killed 33 people in America. I watched that story, and it made me go back to my own story. That how do I forgive somebody who caused me so much pain? And I put myself in the situation of, what if I was in this person's shoes? Will I forgive somebody that killed my loved one this way? So it's it's a story of an individual journey. So it was self-evaluation for me. I told myself, oh, this is causing me more pain. I didn't grow from there. So I realized that I needed to set myself free. I remember watching the movie titled The Shark. And there was this story of this man that had to forgive somebody that killed his daughter. And I told myself, if this man can forgive somebody that killed his own daughter in such a terrible way, why can't I forgive somebody who made me blind? So it was a story of freedom. It was a wonderful experience being a Christian as well. I remember telling myself, the same Jesus who was nailed on the cross, you know, told, I mean, these same people he loved pointed fingers at him and said, crucify him. And he said, and he was still so loving, he looked up and said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they done. And I'm like, what kind of love is this, where somebody is treating you this way and you still choose to forgive? So I realized the freedom of that, not getting to hold on to that call, so it was more like freedom for me. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. It was a decision I made with tears rolling down my eyes, and I repeated 3 times, and I was like, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. I've never seen this guy before. After the experience, he's the last person I saw. It doesn't cost me tears anymore. It used to, but now it doesn't, And even somebody interviewed me and asked me, if I was to see this guy today, what would I do to him? Guess what I said? I said, if I see this guy today, I will hug him and tell him I'm forgiving him. And I'll tell him I love him. And I'll tell him that he should change his ways. And people think I'm crazy. I got terrible responses. I'm like, this is my story. This is my experience. This is my story. I would hug him and tell him I love him and let him know I've forgiven him.
Do you think
you can choose to judge me for this, but that's my story?
Well, no, nobody's
gonna steal it from me.
Nobody can judge you for your feelings. However you felt, you could have said the exact opposite. No one could judge how you feel. But do you think, and I ask you, do you think it was on purpose? Because, here in America, where it's very violent, we're seeing people get robbed, they give all the money, and usually the young kids, they end up sometimes killing the person. And it's like, they gave the money. Why'd you do that? Like the old school criminals knew, get the money.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot that part of your question. Yes. It's a story. Okay, let me put it this way. I know the story of young guys in Nigeria, being jobless, and people saying, oh, it's because of the government, yada yada yada. But I say, like, for the average American, we are hustlers. You can still do great stuff. Many Nigerians have been tagged as scammers, and everything in between. So when I see an average Nigerian doing this kind of stuff, I'm like, I don't blame them. It's the condition of the country. But now when I start to hear stories like what you just shared to me, I'm like, no, we have to blame them, because there are other things you can do with your life. If America, a way more developed country than Nigeria, still have people being robbed, people being shot at, so it shouldn't be a thing of, oh, there's an excuse. No, there's no excuse. You can still choose to do something for your life, But it's really a thing of, you always find it in every society. Yes, there will always be people who pick up guns, who are lazy, doing drugs, doing one or two things. So the policeman told me that most of these young men doing these stuffs were cultists, people who are into drugs, probably looking for money for drugs, So he just did like, he predicted that he was just trying to, get money for drugs, or try and count scores. So they call it count scores. If he was a cultist, to just do something to harm someone, So from what I can remember, he pointed the gun at me. I tried to reach out to my phone, but there was this Navy sticker. So it's a Navy sticker that tells that you are probably a military personnel. But I didn't have any camo. I didn't wear a camo, So the policeman said, in that gesture of me trying to pick up my phone, he probably thought I wanted to shoot back. I wanted to pick up his gun and shoot back. So, well, this is just a speculation. We don't know. Because immediately I turned back to this young man. When I picked up my phone, which was close to the gear, that was when he shot.
Mm.
So you get the story now. So
Okay.
he probably shot out of defense. We don't know. He probably shot because he thought I wanted to bring out a weapon or something. So that's what they think, which I also think that way, But what have happened, And I can't start going back to the past, but it happened already.
Okay. Now, did you hear his voice when he asked for the phone? You had mentioned he said he asked for the phone.
Oh yes, I heard his voice. His voice was so faint. The window was up. The glass of the window was up, so I couldn't hear properly. But I could hear your phone. It was so faint, more like I hear from the glass. You understand what I mean when somebody's speaking to you from the glass? So I could just hear faintly, So all I could hear was your phone. Your phone. Give me your phone. That was all I heard from his voice. But another thing I heard was when he shot and he was trying to reach out into the car, and I think he saw the blood and was like, oh my God, and he took off. I guess he was just a young guy, maybe doing it for the first time. I couldn't stand all the blood. He thought I was dead, but I wasn't dead. I was hearing everything that was going on. I was trying to ransack the car and trying to look for the phone, but by the time he shot, the phone had already fallen back to the ground. He couldn't, there was already he already drew attention to himself. He knew that people can come out of their car and come and challenge him and all of that. So he didn't even spend more than 2 minutes and he took off. He didn't even take my phone. That's the funny thing. So I was shot for nothing.
Wow. Wow. Would you be able to, even though it was faint, recognize his voice, do you think, if you heard it again?
No, I must say no. And at some point I can't. I'm starting to even forget, the faces of my loved ones. So not to talk of somebody that, shot me in the face.
Okay, so that and somebody might say, Kellen, what do you think? This is a Niger movie, this is Nollywood, but you don't know because we people hear all type of things. Rape victims, have been told like you can just feel the presence of that person again, whether it was someone they knew or someone they didn't know. So I just had to ask that. And the rest, I want you guys, you can see the links in the description. I want you to go check out the book. It's on Kindle now. I'm gonna push you to put the audio book out so it can be on Audible, and even transcribe it for the hardbacks, because I mean your story is something that I think and I really hope, pray in Jesus Christ's name you can go tell the whole world and overcome any obstacles and inspire folks with sight and without, because you've inspired me.
Yeah. The book is actually on hardcover as well. My purpose for writing the book, just like you said, is to inspire people. And Kellen, I must say this. I dream of a situation where my story gets on, movie platforms. I want my story to be like a biopic, even maybe not now, but maybe somebody stumbles on my story tomorrow so that it can also inspire more people. And just like what you said, this is something I'm really planning to do. I really need to, I really plan to develop myself, travel around the world, speak on TED Talks, stages, and those kind of things. Just the real drive is just to inspire people, because I remember asking God, and I didn't hear His voice, directly, but it was almost like me speaking to myself that this happened to you for a reason. There's probably somebody out there who is gonna listen to your story and you're gonna save them. So I want to quickly share a story with you. It's gonna be very short, so don't worry.
No worries.
I joined Clubhouse freshly. I came on Clubhouse. This was back during COVID. I joined Clubhouse and I was going to, Western room speaking. I have a couple of, American friends as well. I never mentioned that to you, so that's how I started meeting people around the world. They heard my story. They were so inspired by my story. Now, there was a time I joined the storytelling room, and this was my first time to come on stage. And that's how I started my journey of, doing public speaking virtually and also live. So I joined the stage and there was, this moderator on Clubhouse was telling me, oh, Toby, no, not my name, sorry. They were calling people in the lounge. So I called the people in the audience lounge. They're calling people in the lounge, come on stage, speak, share your story. I couldn't speak. I was so shy. If you knew me before, Kellen, I wasn't a public speaker. I never looked like somebody who would become a public speaker, and I just summoned courage, and I was like, oh, Toby, remember what you told yourself. This is a time where you need to share your story to inspire someone. And guess what, Kellen? I came on that stage. To cut the long story short, somebody reached out to me on Clubhouse. My WhatsApp number is in my Clubhouse bio. And it was actually a man, a Caucasian man in America. And he reached out to me and he called me on WhatsApp and he started crying. And I was like, sir, why are you crying? Why are you crying? And he said, he just wailed and he broke down and he kept on saying, Toby, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much. And he was crying and he said, you just saved my life just because you shared your story. So, Kellen, that's how I started sharing my story on Clubhouse. I have a huge audience on Clubhouse. I didn't mention that to you. You can see I have like 7K, followers on Clubhouse as well. That's how I started my Clubhouse journey. Speaking virtually. I've been invited to several stages to speak as well on Zoom meetings. Spoken to audience in the UK as well. So it's just a movement for me to say, I'm not going to shut my voice down. I'm going to keep sharing my voice and keep, being there to just inspire somebody and be that light, that candle that will light up somebody else's candle that is dying out. So yeah, that's just it for me.
No, keep doing it. You and I are going to stay connected. I don't want to tell the audience some of the things behind the scenes are just for that, but a good storyteller always wants the folks wanting more. So I want you guys to explore, check out links, check out and share the story to inspire someone, because you might be saying, I have nothing to complain about. I have food, I have family, I have all my sight, my vision, all my senses. And here Tommy is telling me everything that he's going to do. And you need to get your plan together. So you guys, I want you to do this. I want you to share the game. It will change somebody's life. You be blessed.
Hey family, on November 20th through December 1st, 2022, we will have the all-inclusive Kenya trip. Now, a lot of times people have said, hey, Phil, when's the next trip we'd like to go? I want to see Africa for myself, but this is the time to go. Everything will be taken care of. All excursions are paid. You can do monthly payments. They'll have safari and a 6-city tour. You will see Charlie Island, which is something that we did not see last time on the tour. This tour will be 12 days instead of 7 days. So make sure to secure your place on the trip by going to www.wbsvs.com, make your deposit, and then you can start making your payments, and we'll see you in Kenya. Are you tired of the violence, tired of the injustice, police brutality, rampant discrimination, lack of gun control in this failed biased socioeconomic experiment called America? Or maybe you need a break from the relentless grind and want to regain control of your destiny, your wealth, your health, and your purpose. DiversifiedGame.com has the right course for you. Prepare for my first trip to Africa. Looking to reconnect with your roots, start a new business, or just a fresh start. Africa, aka the motherland, is waiting. Don't let the Chinese and the Mzungus have the fun and also take over the motherland. From Cairo to Mombasa, from Dakar to Cape Town, Africa has something for everyone, from business opportunities to the most amazing people, safety, leisure, and landscapes. The opportunities abound. It is time for the diaspora to reconnect with their roots. Time to reconnect with the birthplace of humanity. Africa is the last frontier. Get your head in the game and reclaim your legacy. The writing is on the wall. Babylon is falling. Give up the stress, grind, and violence inflicted on our people on this continent, and prepare for a journey of restoration enjoyed by connecting with the land of your ancestors. Check out our new course and kick off your adventure at diversifiedgame.com.